Elderly woman spots her son's birthmark in restaurant 23 years after his disappearance. Dorothy Henderson trembled as she held her coffee cup, her eyes fixed on the nearby table where a young man patiently fed a blonde little girl. There was something familiar about that man, something that stirred her heart inexplicably. It was when he rolled up his shirt sleeve to avoid getting dirty while wiping the child's face that Dorothy felt the world stop. There, on his right forearm, was a crescent moon-shaped birthmark, exactly like the one her son Nathan had when he disappeared at age 5, 23 years ago. "Excuse me, young man." Dorothy approached the table on shaky legs. "May I ask your name?" The man looked up, suspicious. He was tall, dark-haired, with deep brown eyes that were strangely familiar to her. "Why do you want to know?" he replied, instinctively covering his arm. "It's just that—" Dorothy hesitated, feeling tears well up. "You remind me so much of someone." "Daddy, who is the grandma?" the girl asked with the innocence of her 3 years. "She's not our grandma, Emily." "Eat a little more," he said, offering another spoonful. Dorothy watched the girl. Curly blonde hair, bright blue eyes. She was a beautiful, well-cared-for child, dressed in expensive clothes. "Is your name Nathan?" Dorothy insisted, the words coming out as a whisper. The man stopped feeding his daughter and stared at her more closely. "No, my name is Nathan, Nathan Carter, and you're confusing me with someone else." But Dorothy knew she wasn't. 23 years of searching, visiting orphanages, talking to social workers, placing ads in newspapers. She had never forgotten that unique birthmark. "May I sit for just a minute?" she asked, already settling into the free chair at the table. "Actually, we were just finishing lunch," Nathan replied, clearly uncomfortable. "A nice grandma?" Emily stretched her little arms toward Dorothy, who couldn't resist and picked her up. "Emily, no!" Nathan tried to retrieve his daughter, but the girl was already snuggled in Dorothy's lap. "She has a natural affection for people," Dorothy murmured, feeling an immediate connection with the child. "Like her mother?" "Her mother is no longer with us," Nathan replied curtly. "Emily, come here." "She's gone?" Dorothy asked, feeling a pang of compassion. "We separated 2 years ago. She had other interests," Nathan explained, avoiding details. "Now it's just me and Emily." Dorothy watched how he cared for his daughter with such tenderness. Every gesture, every sweet word, every bit of care with the girl's food. It was exactly how she imagined her Nathan would be as a father. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. "Where do you work?" Dorothy asked, trying to prolong the conversation. "I'm a chef at Philly Flavors downtown," he replied, putting his daughter's utensils away in the bag. "How interesting. I've always liked cooking. Dorothy stopped herself. "I've always cooked a lot at home." Nathan noticed her hesitation but didn't comment. There was something about this elderly woman that made him uneasy. It wasn't just the strange approach, but something deeper he couldn't identify. "Emily, let's go. Aunt Jennifer is waiting for us," he said, standing up. "Aunt Jennifer?" Dorothy asked. "The nanny. She takes care of Emily when I'm working," Nathan explained, taking his daughter from Dorothy's arms carefully but firmly. "Don't go, Grandma," Emily protested, reaching her arms back toward Dorothy. "She's not your grandma, sweetheart. Come with Daddy," Nathan said, but his voice came out sweeter than he intended. Dorothy felt her heart break as she watched the little girl being led away. There was something about that child that awakened a maternal instinct she thought she had lost long ago. I come to this restaurant almost every day," she lied. "Maybe we'll see each other again." "Maybe," Nathan replied politely, but without enthusiasm. As they walked away, Dorothy kept watching. The way Nathan walked, how he held his daughter, how he turned to check if she was okay. Each movement stirred painful memories of her lost son. That night, Dorothy couldn't sleep. She kept rummaging through old boxes in the attic of her home in the Upper East Side neighborhood of Philadelphia. She had kept everything of Nathan's, tiny clothes, toys, but mostly the photos. Dozens of photos that clearly showed the birthmark on the boy's arm. "It's him, I'm sure," she whispered to herself, looking at a photo where Nathan, at 4 years old, smiled, showing the mark while playing in the pool. The next morning, Dorothy was at the restaurant even before it opened. She waited patiently until she saw Nathan arriving with Emily. This time he saw her first, and his face clearly showed discomfort. "Good morning," Dorothy said, approaching. "Oh, good morning," he replied without enthusiasm. "Grandma! Grandma!" Emily shouted joyfully, running into Dorothy's arms. "Emily, no!" Nathan tried to intervene, but the girl was already hugging the woman. "She really likes you," he admitted with a sigh. "Sorry about the bother yesterday. I'm not very good with strangers." "No need to apologize, I understand," Dorothy said, stroking Emily's hair. "It's hard to trust people these days." They sat at the same table as the day before. Dorothy observed every detail about Nathan, the way he cut his daughter's food into small pieces, how he tested the temperature before giving it to her, how he carefully wiped her face. "May I ask, did you always know you wanted to be a chef?" Dorothy tried to start a conversation. "Actually, no. I started cooking out of necessity," Nathan replied, more relaxed. "When Emily was born and I separated from her mother, I had to learn to do everything myself. And before that, worked in an office. Corporate life, you know. But I wasn't happy," he explained. "The kitchen brought me peace, maybe because it reminds me, I don't know, something good from the past." Dorothy felt her heart race. Something good from the past? It's strange. Sometimes I have fragmented memories of someone cooking for me when I was a child, but I don't know if they're real memories or things I imagined," Nathan said, seeming a little lost. "Tell me more about that," Dorothy encouraged, trying to control the emotion in her voice. "There's not much to tell. I was raised in foster homes since I was 6. I don't remember much before that," he explained, playing with the napkin. Dorothy had to hold onto the table. 6 years old. The age Nathan would have been when he was taken permanently from the temporary foster homes where he was. "Have you ever tried to find out about your biological family?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "What for? If they gave me up for adoption, it's because they didn't want me," Nathan replied with a bitterness that broke Dorothy's heart. "Maybe that's not exactly it. Sometimes circumstances," she began. "Ma'am, sorry, but I'd rather not talk about that," he gently interrupted. "They're painful memories." "Of course I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bother you," Dorothy said, but inside she was screaming that he was wrong, that she never abandoned him, that she fought day and night to get him back. Emily, who was playing with the utensils, suddenly looked at Dorothy and said, "Grandma, sing-song?" "Of course, sweetie. Do you want me to sing something?" Dorothy replied, smiling. "Emily loves music," Nathan commented. "I always have to sing her to sleep." Dorothy began to hum a lullaby she always used to sing to Nathan. "Black-faced ox, take this girl who's scared of faces." Nathan stopped eating, his eyes fixed on Dorothy with a strange expression. "That song," he murmured. "Do you know it?" Dorothy asked, her heart racing. "I sometimes dream of someone singing that song to me, but the face is always blurry in the dreams," he said, running a hand through his hair. "It's very strange." Dorothy had to use all her willpower not to reveal everything at that moment. Instead, she continued singing softly, watching as Nathan became visibly emotional. "Sorry, I need to go," he said suddenly, standing up. "I have to take Emily to the babysitter and get to work." "Of course." "See you later," Dorothy said, watching them leave again. But this time, she decided to follow them discreetly. She needed to know where they lived, where he worked, everything about the life her son had built without her. Nathan lived in a simple but well-kept apartment in the Queen Village neighborhood. Dorothy watched from a distance as he handed Emily over to a young woman who must have been the babysitter. Then he caught a bus heading downtown. Over the following days, Dorothy established a routine. In the morning, she would casually meet with them at the restaurant. In the afternoon, she would pass by Philly Flavors and could see him working through the kitchen window. At night, she would stay in the square in front of his building watching the windows until she saw the lights go out. She knew she was being obsessive, but she couldn't stop. 23 years of searching couldn't have been in vain. That man was her son, she was absolutely sure. One afternoon, while watching the restaurant, a woman approached Nathan in the kitchen. Dorothy couldn't hear the conversation, but from the gestures she could tell it was tense. The woman seemed angry, gesturing a lot, and even pushed Nathan lightly. Curious and worried, Dorothy entered the restaurant and asked for a table near the kitchen. "I won't take no for an answer, Nathan," the woman was saying, now in a tone Dorothy could hear. "Ashley, we've talked about this. It's not happening," Nathan responded firmly. "Emily needs her mother. You can't raise her alone forever," the woman insisted. Dorothy realized this was the ex-wife, a beautiful, well-dressed woman, but with a hard expression on her face. "You chose your path when you cheated on me with my best friend," Nathan replied, lowering his voice. "Emily is fine the way things are." "That was a mistake. I was confused. You worked too much. I felt alone," Ashley defended herself. "And now that you found out about Aunt Celeste's inheritance, you're back, right?" Nathan said sarcastically. "What a coincidence." Dorothy's eyes widened. "Inheritance? What Aunt Celeste?" "It's not about the money," Ashley protested, but her voice didn't sound convincing. "Of course not." Nathan rolled his eyes. "Ashley, stop this. Emily doesn't even remember you. She's happy and safe with me." "She needs a maternal figure," Ashley insisted. "If she needs one, I'll arrange it. But it won't be you." Nathan was categorical. Ashley left furiously, passing by Dorothy without even noticing her. Nathan was visibly shaken, leaning on the kitchen counter with his hands on his head. Dorothy felt a pang of maternal protectiveness. She wanted to approach, comfort him, tell him he wasn't alone, but she knew it would be too strange. That night, Dorothy couldn't sleep thinking about the conversation. Nathan was raising his daughter alone, dealing with pressure from his ex-wife, working hard. She wanted to help him, but how to do it without seeming like a crazy stranger? The answer came the next day, when she saw Emily crying inconsolably at the restaurant while Nathan tried to calm her. "What happened?" Dorothy approached, worried. "She's had a fever since last night. The babysitter is sick and I can't miss work today." "There's an important event at the restaurant," Nathan explained, visibly stressed. "I can take care of her," Dorothy offered impulsively. "What? No, I can't accept that." Nathan shook his head. "Please, I've raised a child. I know how to care for a sick kid. And she likes me," Dorothy insisted. Emily, as if understanding the conversation, reached her little arms out to Dorothy. "Grandma, stay with me," the girl whimpered. Nathan looked at his daughter, then at Dorothy, clearly conflicted. "I don't really know you," he said hesitantly. "My name is Dorothy Henderson. I've lived in the Upper East Side for 40 years. I can give you my address, phone number, any reference you want," she offered. Emily's fever worsened, and she began to cry louder. Nathan was visibly desperate. "All right," he finally gave in, "but just for today. And I'll call every hour to check on her." Dorothy almost cried with relief and happiness. She would finally have the chance to care for someone from her family, even though Nathan didn't know it yet. She took Emily to her apartment, a cozy place full of photos and memories. The girl, even sick, was fascinated by the images on the walls. "Who's that?" Emily pointed to a photo of Nathan at 4 years old. Dorothy felt her heart tighten. "It's a boy I knew a long time ago." "He looks like Daddy," Emily commented innocently. "He does, doesn't he?" Dorothy agreed, her voice choked up. While caring for Emily, Dorothy felt a peace she hadn't experienced in decades. It was as if a fundamental part of her had returned to its place. The girl slept peacefully in her arms, and Dorothy spent hours just watching that angelic little face. Nathan called 6 times during the day, always worried. On the last call, he sounded more relaxed upon learning the fever had gone down. "You saved my life today," he said when he came to pick up Emily that night. "I don't know how to thank you." "No need to thank me. It was a pleasure to care for her," Dorothy replied sincerely. "She seems very attached to you," Nathan observed, seeing how Emily nestled in Dorothy's lap even while awake. "And I to her," Dorothy admitted. "It's been a long time since I felt so useful." "Do you have children?" Nathan asked, sitting on the sofa beside her. Dorothy hesitated. How to answer that question? "I did, a long time ago," she finally said. "He passed away?" Nathan asked delicately. "We lost touch. Difficult circumstances, Dorothy explained vaguely. I'm sorry, Nathan said sincerely. That must be very painful. It is. Every day, Dorothy admitted, looking him in the eyes. But you learn to live with the pain. There was something in the way she spoke that touched Nathan deeply. He observed her expression, the genuine sadness, and felt a strange connection. You seem like a very special person, he said. Emily was lucky to have found you. I was the lucky one, Dorothy replied, squeezing the girl to her chest. From that day on, Dorothy became a constant presence in their lives. Nathan began to ask for her help more frequently, especially when the babysitter wasn't available. Dorothy never refused. They developed a comfortable routine. Dorothy would sometimes pick up Emily from daycare, take her to the park, cook for her. Nathan gradually began to trust her more and even shared details about his past. You know what's strangest? He said one afternoon while Dorothy was preparing a snack for Emily. Sometimes when you cook, I get flashes of memories, like I've seen those movements before. Dorothy stopped stirring the food, her heart racing. What kind of memories? They're very vague. A woman cooking, the smell of spices, a feeling of safety, you know, he explained, running his hand through his hair. But when I try to focus, the images disappear. Perhaps they're real memories, Dorothy suggested carefully, from your biological family. Maybe. But it doesn't matter now, right? Nathan shrugged. The past is the past. Sometimes the past is important to understand who we are, Dorothy said, seasoning a dish of sweet rice, Nathan's favorite dessert as a child. Nathan tasted it and stopped immediately. This taste, he murmured, his eyes wide. Don't you like it? Dorothy asked, feigning nonchalance. No, it's just... I know this flavor. I'm sure I've eaten this before, exactly like this, he said, confused. But I have no idea where or when. Dorothy had to hold herself back from telling him everything right then. Instead, she just said, a family recipe. Maybe someone in your family knew how to make something similar. Nathan was thoughtful for the rest of the afternoon, clearly unsettled by the memories the sweet rice had stirred. That night, he dreamed vividly for the first time in years. He saw a brown-haired woman making sweet rice in a yellow kitchen, humming softly. In the dream, he was a child, clinging to her legs, begging to lick the spoon. The woman laughed and picked him up, letting him taste the sweet mixture. He woke up startled, with tears in his eyes and a strange feeling in his chest. For the first time since he could remember, he wasn't afraid of the memories, but felt a deep nostalgia. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The next day, Nathan was more introspective. While working, he thought about the dream and the familiar feeling Dorothy stirred in him. There was something more there, something he couldn't identify. In the afternoon, he received an unexpected call from Ashley. Nathan, we need to talk. It's important, she said with a serious tone he didn't recognize. About what, Ashley? He sighed. About that woman who's taking care of Emily. I did some research on her. Nathan felt a chill in his stomach. What research? Nathan, she lost a son over 20 years ago. A boy who disappeared when he was 5. Don't you think it's strange she's so interested in you? Ashley said with a hint of malice. Where did you get that information? Nathan asked, alarmed. A friend of mine works at the Civil Registry Office. Dorothy Henderson really had a son named Nathan who was removed from the family by social workers in 2002. He never returned home. Nathan felt the world spin. Nathan. That was his original name before the adoption. What exactly are you suggesting? He asked, his voice trembling. That she might be confusing you with her lost son. This is dangerous, Nathan. What if she tries to take Emily? What if she's unstable? Ashley planted the seeds of doubt. Dorothy isn't unstable. She's affectionate, careful. Nathan defended her, but his voice didn't sound so convincing. Nathan, think about it. A stranger approaches you out of nowhere, insists on caring for your daughter, makes food that stirs memories in you. Isn't that a bit suspicious? Ashley continued. Nathan hung up the phone with his head full of doubts. Could Dorothy really be confusing him with her lost son? That would explain the sudden interest and the excessive affection. That afternoon, when he went to pick up Emily from Dorothy's house, he observed every detail with new eyes, the photos on the wall, the way she looked at him, the comments about the past. "Dorothy, can I ask you something?" he said, trying to sound casual. "Of course," she replied, playing with Emily on the floor. "You mentioned you had a son. What was he like?" Dorothy felt her blood run cold. Was he getting suspicious? "Why do you ask?" She tried to buy time. "Just curious. You take care of Emily with so much affection. I figured you must have been a good mother," he explained. "He was a very sweet boy, affectionate, smart, loved to help in the kitchen," Dorothy said, choosing each word carefully. "How old was he when you lost him?" Nathan insisted. 5 years old, Dorothy answered almost in a whisper. Nathan felt a chill. 5 years old, the age he was when he was removed from his family. "How did it happen?" he asked, now clearly investigating. Dorothy realized there was no way out. He was suspicious. She needed to make a decision. "Nathan, she began, but he interrupted her. "Was your son's name Raphael?" he asked directly. Dorothy stared at him, tears forming in her eyes. "How do you know?" "Ashley did some research on you. Found out about your lost son," Nathan explained, instinctively stepping back. "Nathan, I can explain." Dorothy stood up, desperate. "Explain what? That you're confusing me with your son? That you're using my daughter to fill a void in your life?" he said, picking Emily up. "It's not like that," Dorothy protested. "Nathan, you are my son." "This is insane," he exclaimed. "Dorothy, you need psychological help." "The birthmark," she screamed desperately. "Your son had the same birthmark you do." Nathan stopped. He looked at his arm, then at her. "Lots of people have birthmarks," he said, but his voice sounded less convincing. "In the shape of a crescent moon? In the same spot?" Dorothy insisted. "Nathan, your original name was Raphael. You were removed from our family when you were 5 because of a horrible fight between your father and me. I fought for 3 years to get you back, but the system wouldn't allow it. When you turned 18, you had changed your name and I couldn't track you down anymore." Nathan fell silent, processing the information. Everything made sense in a disturbing way. The fragmented memories, the instinctive recognition of the flavors, Emily's immediate connection with Dorothy. "Even if that were true," he said slowly, "it doesn't change anything. My life is built. I have my daughter, my work, my responsibilities. I don't want to change your life," Dorothy said desperately. "I just want to be a part of it. I can't. It's too risky. What if you're wrong? What if you really are confusing things?" Nathan shook his head. "I can't expose Emily to this. We can do a DNA test," Dorothy suggested, "to clear up the doubt." "I won't do that," Nathan was categorical. "Dorothy, you are a good person, but you need to accept that your son isn't coming back, and I am not him." "Nathan, please," Dorothy begged. "No, Dorothy, I appreciate everything you've done for us, but I can't let you take care of Emily anymore. Not until you accept reality," he said, heading for the door. "You're making a mistake," Dorothy shouted, but they had already left. Dorothy collapsed on the sofa, crying convulsively. 23 years of searching, and when she finally found her son, he ran away from her again. In the following days, Nathan avoided the restaurant where they used to meet. He changed Emily's daycare schedule and asked the nanny to stay longer. He was determined to cut off any contact with Dorothy, but he couldn't stop thinking about the things she had said. At night, when Emily slept, he would look at old photos he had from his childhood in foster homes. There were few, and all from after he was 6. Why couldn't he remember anything before that age? Why did the social workers always change the subject when he asked about his biological family? A week later, Emily got sick again. This time, a severe allergic reaction that took her straight to the hospital. Nathan was desperate as the doctors tried to identify what had caused the reaction. "Can you provide the child's family medical history?" the doctor asked. "Some allergies are hereditary. I don't have access to that information," Nathan replied, frustrated. I'm adopted and know nothing about my biological family. And your mother? She is no longer with us, Nathan explained. The doctor sighed. We'll run all possible tests, but it would be very helpful to know if there's a family history of allergies. Nathan was anguished, watching Emily struggle to breathe because the medications weren't working. That's when he remembered Dorothy mentioning she knew how to care for sick children. Without a second thought, he called her. Dorothy, he said when she answered. Nathan, she replied, surprised. How did you get my number? You gave it to me when you cared for Emily. Dorothy, I know you said I'm your son, and if that's true, I need to know if there's any history of allergies in the family. Why? What happened? Dorothy asked, alarmed. Emily is in the hospital. Severe allergic reaction. The doctors don't know what to do without the family history, he explained quickly. Which hospital? Dorothy asked. City Hospital, but Dorothy, I'm on my way. She hung up. 20 minutes later, Dorothy arrived, running at the hospital. She found Nathan in the hallway, visibly desperate. How is she? Dorothy asked, breathless. They can't stabilize her breathing. The normal medications aren't working, Nathan explained, running his hands through his hair. Nathan had a severe allergy to dipyrone. It's a rare reaction, but when it happens, it's very dangerous. If Emily inherited that, she can't take any medication containing dipyrone, Dorothy said quickly. Nathan's eyes widened. I'll talk to the doctor right now. He ran into the room and explained the information to the medical team. In less than an hour, after completely changing the medication protocol, Emily began breathing normally. The information you brought saved your daughter, the doctor said. Dipyrone can be fatal in cases of severe allergy like this. Nathan returned to the hallway, where Dorothy waited anxiously. How could you know that? He asked, watching her intently. Because you almost lost your life when you were 3 from the same thing. I spent 2 days in the hospital watching you struggle to breathe until they discovered it was a dipyrone allergy, Dorothy explained, tears streaming down her face. Nathan sat down heavily in the chair beside her. The evidence was piling up in a way he could no longer ignore. If you really are my mother, why did you never look for me before? He asked, his voice laden with pain. I did look. For 23 years I looked without stopping, Dorothy answered. You changed your name when you turned 18. Nathan Henderson became Nathan Carter. There was no way to trace you anymore. Why did I change my name? He asked, more to himself. Probably to erase the painful past. Many children who go through foster homes do that, Dorothy explained. Nathan was silent for several minutes, processing everything. Finally, he looked up at her. Do you have any proof, besides the birthmark and the medical history? He asked. Dorothy opened her purse and took out an old document wallet. Original birth certificate, photos, medical exams, everything I've kept all these years. Nathan took the documents with trembling hands. The birth certificate was his. Nathan Henderson, born September 12, 1998, the same date as his birthday. The photos showed a boy with his features playing in a house he didn't remember, but which sparked a strange familiarity. This was our home, Dorothy explained, pointing to a photo. You loved playing in that backyard. Why was I removed from the family? Nathan asked, looking at a photo where he appeared hugging Dorothy. Your father and I had a terrible fight. He was drinking heavily, lost his job. We started arguing constantly. A neighbor called social services saying the house wasn't safe for a child. You were placed temporarily in a foster home while we sorted out our problems. And then? Your father left home and never came back. I got a job, stopped drinking because I was drinking too back then, went to therapy, got my whole life in order to prove I could take care of you. But when I went to get you, they told me you had already been referred for permanent adoption. Why? Nathan asked, feeling a growing anger. System failure. Your case got lost between departments. When I managed to track it down, you were already with a new adoptive family, and the new parents didn't want to give you up. The judge said it would be harmful for a 7-year-old child to be removed again, Dorothy explained, her voice choked. And you gave up? He asked with a pang of resentment. I never gave up. I fought in court for 3 more years. I spent all my savings on lawyers, but the system was against me. They said I was an unfit mother who had lost the right to raise her own son, Dorothy replied with bitterness. Nathan felt a mix of conflicting emotions, anger at the system that separated them, pain for the lost years, but also a strange sense of relief. He was finally understanding his story. "I want to take a DNA test," he said finally, "to be absolutely sure." "Of course," Dorothy agreed immediately. "We can do it today." 3 days later, they met at the lab to get the result. Nathan was nervous, even though he already knew what the answer would be. Dorothy was both anxious and confident. The doctor opened the envelope in front of them. "The test confirms a 99.9% probability of a maternal relationship," he announced. Dorothy broke down in tears. Nathan was silent for several minutes, just staring at the paper that completely changed his life. "It's official then," he said finally. "You are my mother. You are my son," Dorothy replied between sobs. "My boy I've been looking for my whole life." They hugged for the first time in 23 years, a hug filled with pain, longing, loss, but also with hope and a new beginning. But accepting the truth didn't automatically make everything easy. Nathan still had many questions to resolve. How to tell Emily, how to deal with the anger over the lost time, how to build a relationship with someone who was both a stranger and his mother. "I need time to process all of this," he said when they parted. "It's a lot of information at once." "I understand. I waited 23 years. I can wait a little longer," Dorothy replied, though it was hard for her. "Just don't disappear again, okay?" he asked with a vulnerability that broke her heart. "Never again," she promised. "Now that I've found you, I'll never let you go again." Nathan spent the following weeks on an emotional roller coaster. One day he was happy to have found his family. The next he was furious about the lost years. Sometimes he felt like hugging Dorothy. Other times he wanted to blame her for not fighting hard enough. Dorothy respected his space, but kept in discreet contact. She would text, asking how Emily was. Sometimes she'd leave home-cooked meals at his building's front desk. Small gestures that showed care without being invasive. Emily, innocent as children are, kept asking about the caring grandma. "Daddy, where's Grandma?" she would ask almost every day. "Grandma is busy," Nathan would reply, not knowing how to explain the situation. "Doesn't she like Emily anymore?" the little girl would ask sadly. "It's not that, sweetheart. It's complicated," Nathan would sigh. One afternoon, while he was working, Nathan got a call from the daycare. "Mr. Nathan, Emily had a little accident. Nothing serious, but she's asking for her grandmother. She said only her sweet grandma can make the boo-boo go away," the teacher explained. Nathan closed his eyes. Dorothy had become so important in Emily's life that the little girl called for her to be comforted. "I'm on my way to get her," he said. When he arrived at the daycare, Emily was crying inconsolably. "I want Grandma. I want Grandma," she repeated. Nathan picked her up, but she kept crying. That's when he made a decision. "Shall we go see Grandma?" he asked. "Shall we?" Emily stopped crying immediately. "Let's go," he confirmed. Nathan drove to Dorothy's house with a racing heart. They hadn't spoken in a week, and he didn't know how she would react to the unexpected visit. Dorothy opened the door, and her face lit up upon seeing Emily. "Grandma!" the little girl shouted, jumping from her father's arms into her grandmother's. "What happened, my love?" Dorothy asked, seeing the band-aid on the girl's knee. "I fell at school. I wanted Grandma to make it better," Emily explained, snuggling into Dorothy's lap. Dorothy looked at Nathan, who was standing in the doorway not knowing what to say. "Come in," she said gently. "I'll take care of Emily's boo-boo." Inside the house, Dorothy went straight for the medical supplies. She cleaned Emily's scrape carefully, put on a new band-aid and blew on it to make the boo-boo go away. "Is it better now?" she asked. "It is now," Emily smiled. "Grandma, why did you disappear?" Dorothy looked at Nathan, not knowing how to respond. "Grandma didn't disappear, my love. It's just Daddy was busy," Dorothy explained diplomatically. "But can Daddy play with us now?" Emily asked hopefully. Nathan watched the scene. His daughter completely relaxed in Dorothy's lap, the natural affection between them. the motherly way Dorothy cared for the girl. It was an image that stirred deep memories in him. "Emily, how about you play a little while I talk with Grandma?" Nathan suggested. "Can I play with Nathan's toys?" Emily asked, pointing to a box in the corner of the room. Dorothy and Nathan exchanged a look, both surprised by the question. "How do you know about Nathan?" Dorothy asked delicately. "You said he was a boy you knew a long time ago. Can I play with his toys?" Emily repeated. "Of course, my love," Dorothy replied, opening the box. Nathan watched, fascinated, as his daughter played with his own childhood toys. There was something deeply symbolic about that image. "Dorothy, he began but stopped. "Go on," she encouraged. "I've been trying to understand my feelings. It's hard to accept that my whole life was based on a lie, that I had a family who loved me, but the system didn't let us stay together," he explained. "I understand your anger," Dorothy said. "I feel anger too. At the system, at the circumstances, at the lost time. It's not just anger. It's confusion. Part of me wants to make up for the lost time with you. Another part is afraid it's too late," he admitted. "It's never too late for family," Dorothy said softly. "But I also understand you've built your own life. I don't expect you to call me Mom overnight." "And what do you expect?" Nathan asked. "For you to let me be a part of your lives, not as a stranger but as family. I want to know my grandson, to help when you need it, to be there for the important moments," Dorothy explained. "And what if I can't see you as a mother? What if it's always strange for me?" he asked, uncertain. "Then we'll build whatever relationship is possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real," Dorothy replied wisely. Nathan watched Emily playing happily and made a decision. "I want to try. I want to really get to know you, understand my story, give this family we never had a chance," he said. "Are you sure?" Dorothy asked, her eyes shining. "I am. But let's take it slow, okay? One step at a time," he requested. "One step at a time," she agreed. From that day on, they began to carefully build a relationship. Nathan visited Dorothy regularly, always with Emily. He asked questions about her childhood, about how Dorothy had lived all those years without him. Dorothy showed him photos, told stories, explained how she kept hope alive for over 2 decades. She showed him the room she had preserved for him, the clothes she had saved waiting for him to grow, the birthday gifts she bought every year, even though she couldn't give them. "You never stopped hoping," Nathan observed, looking at piles of unopened gifts. "A mother never stops hoping," Dorothy replied, "even when everyone says it's impossible." Nathan began to recover childhood memories. With Dorothy's help, he managed to remember happy moments he had blocked, playing in the backyard, bedtime stories, the smell of the food she used to make. "I remember you teaching me how to make cookies," he said one afternoon. "You loved licking the bowl." Dorothy smiled. "There was always more dough on you than in the cookies." "Can I learn to make them again?" he asked. "Of course. We can teach Emily too," Dorothy suggested. It was while making cookies together that Nathan finally called Dorothy Mom for the first time since he was 5. "Mum, I think the dough is ready," he said naturally without realizing. Dorothy stopped stirring the ingredients, tears streaming down her face. "You called me Mom," she whispered. Nathan realized what he had said and felt a deep emotion. "It's just, you are my mom, right?" he said, also emotional. They hugged right there in the flower-covered kitchen, with Emily clapping without fully understanding what was happening, but happy to see the adults happy. But the family reconstruction faced an obstacle when Ashley returned to the scene. "Nathan, I heard you're letting that crazy woman get close to Emily again," she said over the phone. "Dorothy isn't crazy, Ashley. She's my mother," Nathan explained. "Your mother? Nathan, you're delusional," Ashley shouted. "We did a DNA test. It's scientifically proven," he replied calmly. "So what? Just because she's your biological mother doesn't mean she's suitable to be around my daughter," Ashley protested. "Our daughter. And she is Emily's grandmother," Nathan corrected. "I'm filing a motion to stop this. A woman who obsessively searched for a lost child cannot be mentally stable," Ashley threatened. "Do what you want, Ashley. I won't push my family away again," Nathan was firm. Ashley's threat created a new source of stress. Nathan knew she had resources and contacts that could complicate the situation. Dorothy became worried about being seen as a negative influence. "Maybe it's better if I step back until this is resolved," Dorothy suggested. "Absolutely not," Nathan was categorical. "We've already lost too much time because of bureaucracy and people meddling where they don't belong. Now we're going to face this together." The legal dispute lasted 3 months. Ashley tried to prove that Dorothy was unstable, obsessive, and dangerous for Emily. She hired investigators to look for evidence of inappropriate behavior. But the evidence worked against Ashley. The investigator discovered that Dorothy had dedicated her life to helping other families who had lost children. She worked voluntarily for missing persons organizations, helped dozens of families reunite. She transformed her own pain into help for others, Nathan's lawyer argued in court. That doesn't demonstrate instability. It demonstrates exceptional strength of character. Furthermore, it was revealed that Ashley had only returned after learning about the inheritance Nathan had received. Her true intentions became clear when she tried to negotiate a cash sum in exchange for dropping the lawsuit. "She doesn't want to protect her daughter. She wants money," the judge observed during a hearing. Ashley's petition was denied, and she was ordered to pay court costs. More importantly, Nathan obtained a court order that limited Ashley's visits and prevented any interference in his family life. "It's over," Nathan said to Dorothy as they left the courthouse. "We can finally live in peace." "Are you sure about that?" Dorothy asked. "I don't want to be a source of conflict in your life." "You're not a source of conflict, you are my family," he replied, taking her hand. "And family is supposed to stay together, not keep drifting apart because of others." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. With the legal issues resolved, they could focus on building their new family reality. Nathan started calling Dorothy regularly just to talk, not only when he needed help with Emily. "Mum, do you want to have lunch with us on Sunday?" he asked in a casual call. "Of course. Can I bring dessert?" Dorothy replied, her heart warming every time he called her Mum. "Sure, Emily loves your condensed milk pudding," he said. "It was your favorite dessert when you were little too," Dorothy remarked. "Apparently some things don't change," Nathan laughed. Sundays became a tradition. Dorothy would go to Nathan's apartment or they would go to her house. Emily loved having her grandma nearby, and Dorothy cherished every moment with her granddaughter. During one of these family afternoons, Dorothy made a proposal that would change everything. "Nathan, I've been thinking about something," she said as they washed dishes together. "Go on," he encouraged. "How about we open a restaurant together?" she suggested. "You with your experience as a chef, me with the family recipes. We could create something special." Nathan stopped drying the plate in his hands. "Are you serious?" he asked. "Completely. I have savings put away, you have the talent and experience, and Emily can grow up seeing the family working together," Dorothy explained. "It would be a dream come true," Nathan admitted. "I've always wanted my own place." "Then let's make it happen," Dorothy smiled. They spent months planning. Dorothy invested her life's savings, and Nathan contributed his practical experience. They found a perfect commercial spot in the Center City neighborhood, on a busy but cozy street. The restaurant would be called Reunion, a name that symbolized not only the family reunion, but also the union of Dorothy's traditional cooking with Nathan's modern techniques. "Every dish will tell a story," Nathan explained to Dorothy as they planned the menu. "The recipes you taught me in childhood, adapted with techniques I've learned over the years." "And what about Emily?" Dorothy asked. "How will she manage with both of us working?" "I thought about that too. We can make a kids area in the restaurant. She can play while we work, and when she's older she can learn the business with us," Nathan suggested. The restaurant opening was an exciting event for the whole small family. Dorothy was nervous, but Nathan reassured her. "Mom, it's going to be okay. We're a team now," he said, adjusting her uniform. "Daddy and Grandma are going to work together." Emily cheered, dressed in a little pink apron that Dorothy had made especially for her. The first day was a success. Customers praised both the quality of the food and the family atmosphere of the place. There was something special about the energy there. a feeling of home that people noticed immediately. "This rice pudding is exactly like my grandmother used to make," a customer commented to Dorothy. "Family recipe," Dorothy replied with pride, "passed down from generation to generation." By the end of the first month, Reunion already had a loyal clientele. People came not only for the food, but for the welcoming atmosphere that Dorothy and Nathan created together. "You have such a good energy here," a regular customer remarked. "You can really feel it's a true family working together." During a quiet afternoon, Dorothy and Nathan were preparing ingredients for dinner when she made an observation that moved him deeply. "You know what makes me happiest?" she asked. "What?" Nathan replied, chopping onions. "Seeing you fulfill your dreams. When you were little, you loved to cook with me. You'd make pretend food in your little toy pot." Dorothy smiled at the memory. "I remember that," Nathan exclaimed. "I had a little red pot and made soup with dirt from the backyard. And I would always praise it, saying it was delicious." Dorothy laughed. "You look so proud." "Maybe that's why I became a chef. Subconsciously, I wanted to hear your praise in the kitchen again," he reflected. "And now you hear it every day," Dorothy said, moving closer and giving him a kiss on the forehead. It was in that moment that Nathan realized he had finally found his place in the world. It wasn't just the restaurant or the profession, it was the feeling of belonging, of having a family that supported him unconditionally. A year after opening, Reunion had become one of the most beloved restaurants in the area. They appeared in food magazines and received quality awards, but the greatest success for Dorothy and Nathan was seeing Emily growing up happy and secure, surrounded by the love of her reunited family. "Grandma, can I help make the cake?" Emily asked one afternoon. "Of course, my love. I'll teach you the recipe I taught your daddy when he was your age," Dorothy replied. Nathan watched the two in the kitchen, Dorothy patiently guiding Emily's small hands, and felt a deep gratitude. Fate had been cruel to separate them, but it had also been generous in allowing them to find each other again. During the restaurant's year-end celebration, Dorothy gave a speech that moved everyone. 2 years ago, I was a woman living in the past, dreaming of a reunion that seemed impossible. Today I am here with my son and my granddaughter, fulfilling dreams I didn't even know I had," she said, looking at Nathan and Emily. "Life teaches us that we should never give up on love. That family isn't just who lives in the same house, but who carries you in their heart, even when you are apart," she continued. "And I learned that reunions don't just happen between people. They happen with dreams, with hopes, with the version of ourselves we thought was lost forever." Nathan stood up and hugged his mother in the middle of the dining room, to the emotional applause of the staff and customers present. "Thank you," he whispered in her ear, "for never giving up on me." "Thank you," she replied, "for letting me be part of your life again." Emily ran to join the hug, and the three of them stayed like that for several minutes, a family finally complete. 2 years later, Nathan surprised Dorothy with a special proposal. "Mom, I want to officially adopt your last name again," he said during a family dinner. "Nathan," Dorothy was speechless. "I want Emily to grow up knowing we are a family united not only by love, but also by name. I want to be Nathan Henderson Carter," he explained. "Are you sure?" Dorothy asked, moved. "Absolutely. Nathan never ceased to exist. He was just hidden. Now, I want him to be part of who I am again," Nathan replied. The legal change was simple, but the emotional meaning was immense. When Nathan received the new documents as Nathan Henderson Carter, Dorothy cried as she hadn't cried in years. "Now you're officially my son again," she said. "I always was. It just took me some time to accept it," he replied. The restaurant continued to thrive and they opened a second location in the city center. Emily, now 6 years old, loved spending time at both establishments and was already showing an interest in the kitchen. "Grandma, when I grow up, can I work with you?" she asked one day. "Of course, my love. This business is our family's," Dorothy answered. "And Emily can be the head chef when she grows up," Nathan added, making the little girl smile with pride. On a special afternoon, Nathan took Dorothy to the notary's office where he had changed his original name years before. "Why have we come here?" she asked, curious. "I want you to see something," he said, handing her a document. Dorothy read it and couldn't believe it. It was a power of attorney giving her all legal rights over Emily in case of an emergency, effectively recognizing her as the girl's legal grandmother. "Nathan," she whispered, "for you are Emily's grandmother in every sense. I want this to be official too," he explained. "If anything ever happens to me, I want her to stay with you." "Nothing will happen to you," Dorothy said, hugging him tightly. "I hope not. But if it does, I want my daughter to be raised by the same woman who raised me with so much love," he replied. This final gesture completely sealed the family's reconstruction. Dorothy was no longer just the biological mother who had lost her son. She was the official grandmother, the family matriarch, someone with real rights and responsibilities in both their lives. On the eve of the restaurant's 3rd anniversary, Nathan surprised Dorothy. He organized a party where he invited all the families she had helped reunite during her years of volunteer work. "These people exist because you never stopped believing in the power of family love," he said when Dorothy saw the room full of reunited families. "My God," she whispered, seeing dozens of people she knew from the search organizations. "Mrs. Dorothy," a woman approached with 2 teenagers. "These are my children, I found thanks to your help 5 years ago." "Mrs. Dorothy," another person waved, "my brother is here. We managed to reunite by following your advice." All night long, people came up to thank Dorothy for not letting them give up, for sharing her hope when they no longer had the strength to search. "You turned your pain into healing for other people," Nathan said when they were alone at the end of the party. "That is far more than any mother could have done." "I just did what my heart told me to," Dorothy replied modestly. "And that is exactly what brought me back to you," he concluded. Emily, now 7 years old, was developing her own special relationship with the family's cooking. She loved helping in the kitchen and already knew how to make a few simple recipes on her own. "Grandma, is this fudge recipe from our family?" she asked one afternoon. "Yes, my love, your great-grandmother taught me. I taught your father when he was little, and now I'm teaching you," Dorothy explained. "And when I have a daughter, will I teach her too?" Emily asked. "Absolutely. That way the family recipes will never be lost," Dorothy confirmed. Nathan watched the conversation and smiled, noticing how the family bonds were being naturally passed on to the next generation. On a special Sunday morning, Dorothy woke up to a surprise. Nathan and Emily were in her kitchen, preparing an elaborate breakfast. "What's all this celebration?" she asked, intrigued. "Today marks exactly 4 years since we met at that restaurant," Nathan explained. "I want to celebrate the day my life changed for the better." "Our life," Dorothy corrected, emotional. "Our life," he agreed, hugging her. During breakfast, they recalled the most important moments of the last 4 years. The first DNA test, the first times Nathan called her Mom, the opening of the restaurant, the difficult moments they overcame together. "You know what amazes me the most?" Nathan reflected. "It's how Emily naturally adapted to having you as a grandmother. For her, it was always obvious that you were part of the family." "Children have that natural wisdom," Dorothy observed. "They feel true love even before they understand adult complications." "Daddy, can I tell you something?" Emily interrupted. "Of course, sweetheart," Nathan encouraged. "From the first day I saw Grandma, I knew she was special. It was like my heart recognized her," Emily said with the profound simplicity of children. Dorothy and Nathan looked at each other, both moved by the girl's observation. "Maybe family love is stronger than we think," Dorothy murmured. "Maybe it finds a way to show itself, even when we don't logically understand it." That afternoon, they visited the cemetery where Nathan's father was buried, the man who had abandoned the family and indirectly caused all the separation. "Why did we come here?" Dorothy asked, a bit uncomfortable. "Because I need to make peace with the past completely," Nathan explained. He was also a victim of circumstances, of his own limitations, of problems he didn't know how to solve. They stood in silence for a few minutes before the grave. Finally, Nathan spoke. "Dad, it took me a long time to understand that you were also lost back then. I hope that wherever you are, you've found the peace you couldn't find here," he said. "And I hope you know that our family has reunited and that we are well, that the grandson you never met is being raised with a lot of love," he continued. Dorothy held his hand throughout the speech, supporting him in this moment of forgiveness and closure. "Now it's really over," Nathan said as they left the cemetery. "I don't carry resentment towards anyone anymore." "And neither do I," Dorothy agreed. "Only gratitude that we found each other again." On the restaurant's 5th anniversary, they received an unexpected proposal. A television network wanted to make a documentary about the family's story and the establishment. Reunion, a story of family love, would be the name of the program, the producer explained. "We'd like to tell how you were lost and found each other, and how that resulted in a successful business based on family love." Nathan and Dorothy talked at length about the proposal. On one hand, they could inspire other families going through similar situations. On the other, they would have to expose intimate details of their journey. "What do you think?" Nathan asked Emily, respecting the opinion of the girl who would also be shown in the program. "I think we should tell our story," Emily answered with surprising maturity for her 8 years. "Because if other families see how you found each other, they won't give up searching either." The child's wisdom convinced them both. They agreed to participate in the documentary. The filming was emotional. Nathan and Dorothy shared details they had never shared publicly. The pain of separation, the years of fruitless searching, the moment of recognition in the restaurant. "What kept you searching for 23 years?" the interviewer asked Dorothy. "The certainty that the love between a mother and child is indestructible," she answered. "Even when all evidence says there is no hope, a mother's heart knows her child is still out there." "And you, what did you feel when you discovered you had a mother who had been looking for you for decades?" they asked Nathan. "First, disbelief. Afterwards, anger over the lost years. But finally, immense gratitude for having a family that never gave up on me," he replied. The documentary aired on a national network and had an enormous impact. Dozens of families got in touch saying they were inspired by the story to resume their own searches. "You can't imagine how many people you've helped," a social worker called to say. "After the program, the number of people searching for lost relatives at our organization tripled." The documentary's success brought customers from all over the country to the restaurant. People traveled hundreds of miles just to eat at the place where the family from the documentary worked together. "It's surreal," Nathan commented one night, seeing the waiting line forming at the door. "People don't come just for the food," Dorothy observed. "They come seeking the hope our story represents." With the increased demand, they needed to expand again. They opened a 3rd location and started selling frozen products with Dorothy's recipes in supermarkets. "I never imagined our personal story would become something so big," Dorothy reflected. "Maybe it's because it's a real story, about real feelings," Nathan suggested. "In a world full of artificial things, people are hungry for authenticity." Emily, now 9 years old, had become a little local celebrity. She appeared on television programs as a representative of reunited families and spoke naturally about her experience. "What's it like having a grandma who found your dad after so long?" a host asked her. "It's normal," Emily replied, making everyone laugh. "To me, it was always obvious they were family. Adults are the ones who complicate things." The answer became a meme on social media and reinforced the message that family love is something simple and natural. On the 6th anniversary of the reunion, Nathan pulled off a surprise that left Dorothy speechless. He bought the house where he had been born, the same one Dorothy had to sell years ago to pay the lawyers. How did you manage it?" she asked, incredulous, holding the house keys. "The family who bought it saw the documentary and contacted me. They wanted to sell it back to us for the price they paid at the time, as a way of giving back to our story," Nathan explained. "But that must cost a fortune nowadays," Dorothy protested. "The restaurant gave us financial means I never imagined having, and I want Emily to grow up in the same house where I was born," he said. They visited the house together that afternoon. Dorothy entered trembling with emotion, remembering every corner where Nathan had played as a child. "The backyard is the same," she observed, seeing the tree Nathan used to climb. "I'm going to make a play area here for Emily," Nathan planned, "and there, where my room was, will become her room." "And my room?" Dorothy asked timidly. "It's next to mine, as it always should have been," Nathan replied, hugging her. The move to the childhood home marked a new phase of family life. Dorothy returned to live in the house where she had raised Nathan in his early years, and now she would also raise Emily. "Grandma, tell me what it was like when Daddy was little and lived here," Emily would ask every night before bed. "Your father loved playing in that backyard. He would make little doll houses with leaves from the tree and call me over for pretend tea," Dorothy would tell. "Just like I do now," Emily celebrated. "Some things are hereditary," Dorothy smiled. During the first months in the house, Nathan was surprised by how many memories came flooding back. Every corner awakened recollections he thought were lost forever. "I remember being afraid of the dark and running to your room," he told Dorothy one night. "And I always let you sleep with me when you had nightmares," she finished. So she used to say monsters didn't enter Mommy's room. "Maybe that's why I could never sleep well in foster homes. I was always waiting for you to come get me," Nathan reflected. "I was trying," Dorothy said with a pang in her heart. "Every single day I was trying." The restaurant kept growing, but Dorothy and Nathan made a point of keeping the family essence of the business. They turned down franchising offers and outside investments that could have distorted the original concept. "We prefer to grow slowly and keep our identity," Nathan explained to interested investors. "Reunion isn't just a restaurant. It's a symbol that family love can overcome any obstacle," Dorothy added. Emily began to show not only interest in the kitchen, but also a natural talent for customer service. She loved talking to people and hearing their stories. "Grandma, that lady at table 6 has been looking for her son for 15 years, she told them one afternoon. "I told her not to give up, that you looked for each other for 23 years and found each other." "You said that?" Dorothy asked, amazed. "I did, and I gave her Aunt Melissa's phone number. She works at the search organization," Emily replied naturally. Dorothy and Nathan exchanged a look, proud of the girl's social sensitivity. In the 7th year after the reunion, they received a special invitation to participate in an international conference on vulnerable families in Washington, D.C. "They want us to share our experience with social workers and judges from various countries," Nathan explained, reading the invitation. "Do you think we can really make a difference?" Dorothy wondered. "Of course we can. Our story proves the system can fail, but also that it's never too late to correct mistakes," Nathan replied. The presentation in Washington, D.C. was a milestone. Dorothy and Nathan spoke to an audience of over 500 social and judicial professionals. "The system that separated us was created to protect children," Nathan said during his speech. "But sometimes in trying to protect, we end up creating traumas bigger than the ones we're trying to prevent." "The biological family isn't always the best option," Dorothy added. "But when it is, we should give it every chance to restructure and stay together." The impact of the conference resulted in changes to legislation on adoption and family search. Several organizations began using their story as an example that family reunification should always be considered. "You helped change laws," a social worker commented. "This will impact thousands of families in the future." Back in Philadelphia, they found the restaurant even busier. Their participation in the conference had generated new national media, and people from all over the United States kept visiting Reunion. "I think we need to accept that our story is bigger than us," Nathan said one night. "Maybe that's our mission, to give hope to those who lost faith in family love," Dorothy reflected. Emily, now 10 years old, began writing a children's book about her family. The story was told from the point of view of a child who gains a grandmother out of nowhere and doesn't understand why the adults find it complicated. "Can I read it to you?" she asked one night. "Of course, sweetheart." Dorothy and Nathan settled in to listen. Once upon a time, a girl met a kind grandma at the restaurant. The grandma liked the girl's daddy very much, but Daddy didn't understand why. The girl knew they were family because her heart felt all warm when the grandma was near. Emily read. The simple, pure story moved both adults. "You should publish this," Nathan suggested. "You think so?" Emily asked, excited. "Absolutely. Children need to hear that families can reunite," Dorothy encouraged. Emily's book was published the following year and became a hit among children. Schools began using the story to talk about different types of families with kids. Grandma from the Heart became required reading in many schools. the publisher announced during a meeting. "We want to propose a series of books about your family." Life had become a constant succession of opportunities to share their story and help others. "Sometimes I wonder what our life would be like if we were a normal family without all this attention," Nathan commented. "I don't know if we'd be happy being ordinary," Dorothy replied. "Maybe our mission is exactly this, to be an example that the impossible can happen." On the 10th anniversary of the reunion, they organized a special party at the restaurant. They invited all the families who had been reunited inspired by their story, all the employees who had worked with them over the years, and the professionals who had helped them. 10 years ago, I was just a lonely lady who believed in miracles, Dorothy said in her speech. Today we are a complete family, owners of a thriving business, and most importantly, we are certain that love always finds a way. What we've learned is that reunions aren't just about people who get lost and find each other, Nathan added. They're about rediscovering parts of ourselves we thought were lost forever. Emily, now 13 and an articulate teenager, gave the final speech of the night. "I grew up knowing my family is special, not because we're perfect, but because we never gave up on each other. My grandma taught me that love is stronger than time. My dad taught me it's never too late to start over. And together they taught me that family is who we choose to love every day," she said. The entire hall rose in an emotional standing ovation. After everyone had left, Dorothy, Nathan, and Emily stayed behind, cleaning up the restaurant. "You know what moves me the most?" Dorothy said, putting away the last plates. "What?" Nathan asked. "Emily won't grow up with the emptiness you grew up with. She has had a complete family from the start for her," Dorothy observed. "And she'll never know what it feels like to be abandoned or unloved," Nathan finished, watching his daughter stack chairs. "We managed to break a cycle of pain, didn't we?" Dorothy reflected. "We did more than that. We created a cycle of love that will continue for generations," Nathan replied. That night when they got home, the same house where Nathan had been born and where Emily was now growing up, they sat in the backyard looking at the stars. "Is there anything you would change in this whole story?" Nathan asked Dorothy. "I wish I hadn't missed your first steps, your first words, your first days of school," she answered honestly. "But I wouldn't change anything about what we lived through after we were reunited." "And you?" she asked in return. "I would change the suffering you went through looking for me. I would change the years you lived believing you were a mother who had failed," Nathan said. "But without that suffering, maybe I wouldn't have had the strength to keep searching," Dorothy pondered. "And I wouldn't have developed the independence that made me a good father to Emily," Nathan added. "So maybe everything happened the way it was supposed to," Dorothy concluded. "Maybe life separates us sometimes to teach us the value of being together," Nathan philosophized. Emily, who was listening to the conversation from her bedroom window, smiled and went to sleep peacefully, knowing she was part of a family that had chosen love above all difficulties. The next day, a new family arrived at the restaurant, a woman around 60 years old with a young man and a small child. Dorothy watched them from the kitchen and noticed the recent expression of happiness on their faces. "Can I help you?" Nathan approached the table. "We would like to meet in person the family that inspired our reunion," the woman said. "I searched for my son for 15 years. We managed to find each other after watching your documentary." Dorothy left the kitchen and approached the table. "Welcome to Reunion," she said, with tears in her eyes. "You are living proof that our story was worth it. We want to thank you for not giving up. You taught us it was possible," the young man said. "And we want our daughter to grow up knowing this story of hope," he added, pointing to the small child. During lunch, the two families shared their experiences. There were striking similarities: the tireless search, the bureaucratic obstacles, the magical moment of recognition. "Would you like a photo for our reunion wall?" Emily suggested, showing a wall where they displayed photos of all the families who had been inspired by their story. "It would be an honor," the woman replied. After the family left, Dorothy, Nathan, and Emily stood looking at the newly added photo on the wall. "How many families are there now?" Nathan asked. 87, Emily replied promptly. "I count them all." 87 families who reunited after learning our story, Dorothy murmured, impressed. "And probably many others we don't even know about," Nathan added. That afternoon, a journalist called proposing a story about the reunion phenomenon, how the family's story had inspired a wave of family searches across the country. "We would like to do a report on your social impact," she explained. "You have become symbols of hope for separated families across the United States." "We never imagined our personal story would have this reach," Nathan admitted during the interview. "What message would you like to leave for families who are still searching?" the journalist asked. "Never give up," Dorothy answered immediately. "Family love is the most powerful force in the universe. Even when it seems impossible, keep believing." "And for the families who have already reunited," she continued. "Be patient with each other," Nathan replied. "Rebuilding relationships takes time. It's a process of mutual discovery. It doesn't happen overnight." "And most importantly," Emily interjected, "remember that family is about choosing to love every day, not just about blood." The story was published on the cover of a national magazine and generated even more visibility for the restaurant and the cause of family reunification. A week later, they received a special letter from Washington, D.C. The Congress wanted to honor them for their services to American families. "You will receive a Medal of Honor for social merit," the letter stated. "It's surreal how our story has become something much bigger than us," Nathan commented. "Perhaps it's because it represents something we all fear, losing the people we love," Dorothy reflected. "And something we all need, hope that love can overcome anything." The ceremony in Washington, D.C. was emotional. Dorothy, Nathan, and Emily were greeted by lawmakers and officials who knew their story. "You represent the best of the American family," said the chairman of the committee honoring them. "Proof that family love can overcome any adversity." During the acceptance speech, Dorothy said something that stood out. "This medal is not just ours. It belongs to every mother who never stops searching, to every child who never stops hoping, and to every family that chooses love despite the difficulties." Back at the restaurant, the medal was displayed in a special place, next to the reunion wall. "Grandma, when I have children, I'll tell them our whole story," Emily said, looking at the medal. "And they'll tell their children," Dorothy answered. "Our story will stay alive through the generations." "Like all the best family stories," Nathan added. That night, as they closed the restaurant, they took stock of everything they had built together. A thriving business, a reunited family, an important social cause, and above all, living proof that the impossible can happen when you have faith. "You know what our greatest achievement was?" Dorothy asked. "What?" Nathan and Emily asked together. "Proving that lost time can be regained, that it's never too late for love, and that family is the most important thing there is," she replied. "And that some stories really do have a happy ending," Emily added. "Especially when people don't give up fighting for them," Nathan finished. They walked home together, 3 generations of a family that had chosen love above all difficulties, knowing that their story would continue to inspire other families for many years. And so what began with a birthmark recognized in a restaurant became a national symbol of hope, proving that some separations are only temporary and that family love can cross any distance of time or space. End of story. And now, tell us what you thought of this touching story. Do you believe family love can really overcome any distance? Have you lived through or know someone who has had a similar experience? Leave your comment sharing your opinion, and don't forget to give your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories like this one.